Hello, what's up? My name is Driessnack, and I'm here to tell you about my PDPs. But what is a PDP, you may ask? PDP is a personal development project for CMU honors students. There's 5 different categories for that. You have your embracing intellectual growth and academic creative life at the university. You have exploring diverse ideas, people in a global society. You have exploring avenues for personal development and professional achievement. You have becoming an active citizen, serving a greater good service projects. And finally, you have participating in the honors community. So I wanted to take a little time to tell you about what I did this semester. Number 1, the no grade program. In one of the very first honors lectures that we had, Fame talked about the no grade program. He talked about his experience in high school being not so great with grades. And I really related to that. So I took the challenge and went a whole semester without seeing any of my grades for Honors 100. And you may ask, Christian, was that hard for you? Yes, it was. So I chose to do the no grade program because high school was really bad for me in terms of grades. Almost every single day I would check my grades to make sure I was getting an A in a class. Or I would do the math required to see what's the minimal amount I can do to get that A. It was becoming less about like the work in the class and more about the grade, which I didn't like. And I didn't want that to continue on to college. So instead of getting a grade on every one of my essays, I get extended feedback. And you can see right here, sometimes there's a whole lot of it. I think that means I screwed up. But mainly I get a lot of extra notes on my writing on ways that I can make it better and better answer the prompt. At first this was really hard for me for a number of different reasons. After everyone got back their papers, immediately everyone was talking to one another asking, "What'd you get on your paper? I got this on my paper." And I didn't get to participate in any of that, and something I've been used to for a very long time throughout high school. Instead, I got to look at my notes, see what I did right, see what I did wrong, and see what I can do better next time. And I really liked that. I liked focusing more on the content of my writing rather than what I was getting scored for each writing piece. There's a couple challenges though. Being unable to see my grade kind of killed my motivation a little bit. It almost didn't seem like the papers I were writing was impacting my grade, but I had to keep in mind that they were. So in the end, I got a lot of the experience. I focused more on the content of my writing rather than the scores I was receiving, and really noticed an improvement. And this is actually kind of spilled over to some of my other classes. I'm not checking my grades as often, I'm focusing more on the material, and this is something I want to carry through college. So, incredibly happy that I did the no grade program. Number 2, the CMU Orchestra. So, the CMU Orchestra was a concert put on by the music students. The concert was on Tuesday, November 10th at 7:30 in the Staples Family Concert Hall. And the event was really musical? I'm not really sure. I really do not know a lot about orchestras or anything classical music-wise, but I ended up really enjoying it. I picked it because it was something that I wouldn't have done if I wasn't doing it for a PDP. I wanted to embrace a different side of the university that I wouldn't have otherwise. When I got there, I sat next to this girl named Katie. Turns out her boyfriend was in the orchestra and played percussion, so I got to talk to her for a little bit, which is pretty cool. Anyway, here's my pamphlet for the orchestra, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. So for the majority of the concert, there was a lady up front who played the bassoon, and a man beside her who played the trumpet. They led most of the songs, but there were also a slew of other percussion, trumpets, woodwinds, and all that other fun stuff there. Overall, I really had a good time at the concert. I don't know a lot of things about the classical music, but I do have a music background. And one thing that I could pick out from all the other students was passion. There are times when you're just playing music and you end up getting lost in the music, you forget what's going on, and you're just you're there and in the zone. I saw that in a lot of other students' faces. And I can appreciate those things. They worked really hard to put on this concert, passing long hours through class, outside of class, in their dorms, and they did a stand-up job. Really happy I went and I enjoyed the experience, and it's something that I'll probably go to again. Number 3, dark matter poetry. So for the PDP category, exploring diverse people in a global society, I chose the dark matter poetry reading. The event was Friday, October 3rd in the UC. I ended up going with my girlfriend and 2 of her roommates. The event was put on by the LGBTQ, so I knew what the LGBTQ stood for, but I wasn't sure what they were all about, like what their purpose for the event was or what they were trying to achieve, but I went there anyway. So the event started and a member of the LGBTQ came up and introduced the 2 poets by dark matter. Then 2 people walked out and immediately just went into their first poem. What stood out to me at first was I couldn't quite place my finger on the gender of either of the poets. They had both qualities of men and women, but weren't distinctly one or the other. And that bothered me for a little bit. For some reason, I couldn't figure it out, and it was just in the back of my mind. I eventually got over that and just listened to what they had to say. Both of the poets explained to us that they identified as transgender, and a lot of their poems dealt with sexuality. Talked about being gay, bisexual, transgender, and different things that they had to deal with because of that. They talked a lot about what it meant to be transgender, and fought for transgender power. A lot of people aren't respectful of transgender people because they're different and they hold different beliefs than what they do. They talked about white straight people as being really oppressive to them. Now, you know, I consider myself a pretty open person and accepting of a large group of people. I have no problem if you're trans. I have no problem if you're gay, bisexual, or anything. You do you, I'll do me, and let's just keep it like that. So it took me a really long time to kind of get past the whole white straight people are oppressing us. But there's a lot of truth in that. America's getting a lot better in the sense that we're really open to a lot of different people now and ideas that we weren't to a long time ago. They talked about in India, all the hateful things that are said about them, and in other countries around the world who aren't quite as developed as the United States. And overall, it was a really cool experience. A lot of the ideas and topics they talked about were things that I am usually not exposed to. But nonetheless, I enjoyed learning about them. And they all challenged us to see people as people and treat people the way that you'd want to be treated as a human being. And that's something I'm going to carry with me through my CMU years. And I'm going to strive to treat people the way they want to be treated. Number 4. Native American food tasting event. So again, in the topic of exploring a diverse people in a global society, I decided to go to the Native American food tasting event. The event was Monday, November 9th in the UC Rotundra. I chose this event because of the native tribe that lives in Mount Pleasant. I lived in Mount Pleasant for 18 years, but I've never felt like I truly went and explored what their culture is like. I really didn't know a lot about them, so I wanted to go explore their culture more and see what they were all about. So when I got to the event, I immediately sat down with 2 members of the tribe. We talked a little bit about the food we'd be having and about what the event was going to entail total. I also got to talk a lot about what it was like growing up in the tribe. Anyway, another member of the tribe came up and introduced the event. From there, we were dismissed to go get food. On the tables, they left us a recipe book, giving us recipes for a lot of the foods that we'd be enjoying that night. There were things like squash soup, Ojibwe sweetmeat, Indian fry bread, wild rice stuffing, and pumpkin pudding. I noticed that a lot of the recipes called for very natural ingredients. Everything in a lot of the foods came directly from the earth. So after we enjoyed the meal, he invited a lot of the dancers up to perform different dances for us. Each dancer represented a different style of dance and wore regalia that matched. Each dancer explained the style of dance, where the dance came from, and then performed the dance. One of the things I noticed about each of the dances is that they each came from observing nature. One of the styles was called grass dancing, and it emulated the grass as it billows in the wind. On the regalia, they had little tassels that swayed back and forth as they moved. They were really trying to emulate the look of grass swaying in the wind. They even told us about the first dance, as when the first man came onto the earth, his first steps were the first dance. And that's something they honor with a style of dance. I was happy to learn more about the different groups that live in Mount Pleasant and explore diverse people who live in a global society.
Number 5. Barefoot Week.
Barefoot Week. Starting September 28th, I went an entire week barefoot. I walked around barefoot, I went to class barefoot, I rode my bike barefoot, everything barefoot. This is something I chose to do because not everyone has shoes. Isabella County is one of the poorest counties in Michigan. For some people, they walk around every day of the year without shoes. So the first day of Barefoot Week went off really well. It was nice and sunny outside, it was like 60 degrees, the day was beautiful. I was actually worried that the experience was going to be too easy. The rest of the week was incredibly difficult. The weather was consistently overcast, the temperature dropped about 30 degrees, and there was rain. So much rain. My feet were sore, they were cold from the wind. It was just not a good time total. For one of the days, I biked to meet a friend at Hunan House. I remember going up Broomfield, just swearing under my breath, thinking this is the most miserable thing. Biking up into the wind, feet are hurting, feet are cold. It's just not a good time for me. But at the same time, I can think about people who don't have shoes and have to deal in this weather on a daily basis throughout the year. And that gave me enough strength to kind of push through and get all the way to Hunan House. Of course, my feet were aching that night, but I did it. The experience gave me an increased appreciation for my shoes. So when I use things that keep me warm, keep my body from getting really sore on a daily basis, it's easier to appreciate those things and be grateful for what you have, as well as having empathy for people who don't have those things.
Number 6. A Camarena Conscientious Ceremony.
So the Camarena Conscientious Ceremony. On Thursday, November 5th, I went to the UC with no idea what to expect. All I was told is that I needed to wear comfy clothes and I had to fast an entire day. I chose to participate because this was really interesting to me. I had never really explored consciousness before, and I didn't know what to expect. So I walked into a dark room full of other honor students. There was a loud Indian-sounding music playing in the background, and everyone just looked confused. And then Fame walked out. We walked into a room that was lit by 3 candles, and we each got a blindfold and a cup of tea. We started by going around the room and each person had a piece of paper to read, which talked about a student who participated last year and their experiences. People saw different faces, someone thought they flew through the sky, other people experienced gravity. Either way, it sounded really cool. We talked a lot about consciousness and what people have done to affect it. How through fasting, music, special substances, ceremony, and focus, people have been able to alter their mental statuses. So we attempted to do so. We laid down, put our blindfolds on, and was completely still for 30 minutes. For the first 10 minutes, I really fought to quiet my mind. I had conversations going back and forth in my head, and I couldn't just not think about anything. There was always something I was thinking about. After a while, it felt like all the conversations in my head just stopped, and I was just laying there. I started to feel really uncomfortable, so I tried to reposition my legs, and I couldn't move them. For some reason, my legs just felt extra heavy and like they were bolted to the floor. I didn't want to kind of break out of the trance, so I just kind of let myself go. I relaxed. Then I started seeing stuff. Even though I had my blindfold on, I saw different colored shapes moving around my field of vision. My whole body just felt really heavy. Like it was almost hard for me to move. Fame rang a chime 3 times, which sent a shockwave all the way up through my body. And we all sat up. This was the first time I had experienced anything with altering my mental status. It was a concept completely foreign to me before that night. I might consider doing something with meditation in the future, but overall I'm really happy that I was exposed to the concept and got to experience what I did. Also, thank you very much, Fame. That whole ceremony was extremely well done.
Number 7, Cardboard City. Number 7, Cardboard City.
So on November 18th, a group of honor students spent a night in a cardboard box. The purpose of the event was to raise awareness for homelessness in Michigan and in our local county. This is something I wanted to participate in because I wanted to challenge myself to spend a whole night in a cardboard box, to experience what homelessness is like. I've been on countless mission trips through my local church to help homeless people in surrounding areas in big cities like Detroit, Chicago, but I've never really experienced exactly what it would be like to be homeless for a night. So I grabbed the box, grabbed my pillow, bundled up nice and warm, and carried it over to the library where we set up on the lawn outside. When I got there at 8 o'clock, there was 100 kids set up in different boxes. Each had formed different communities, some were like singing songs, but overall there was a great turnout. I talked to several of the other students who were in boxes, and it eventually got pretty late and I decided to go to bed. Well, I couldn't really go to bed because I didn't really get much sleep that night. One, it was really hard to sleep because I had an opening in my box and the city lights were really bright. I couldn't really get comfortable on the cardboard, and it was pretty cold. The wind was making a lot of noise against our box, and overall it just was not very good conditions to sleep. I didn't feel very safe in my cardboard box. I didn't feel very well protected from my surroundings or the weather. If it would have rained, I would have been hosed. Anyway, I woke up at around 7 o'clock in the morning and got up to find that I was one of 5 students who had lasted the entire night. 5 students. Everyone else had gone home. Littered across the lawn was tons of boxes, trash, snack wrappers, trash bags, and even 1 bottle of pee. And it kind of made me mad. Not necessarily because I was the only one who stayed and they didn't, but because of how they were making the honors community look. The purpose behind the event was to experience a night in the life of a homeless person. Homeless people can't just get up and go home if things get hard. And they especially don't leave their trash all over the place. That doesn't make the honors community look very good. So we got up, packed up our stuff, and cleaned up all the other boxes, which I kind of related to homeless people going around and picking up cans. But overall, I'm really glad I participated. I got to experience what it would be like for a homeless person, raise awareness to other people about homelessness, and it also gave me an increased amount of empathy for people who don't have a home. Either way, I think the service project did its job, as I got to talk to plenty of people that night about homelessness, and hopefully raise some awareness.
Number 8, MPHS Mentor.
So when I was in high school, I participated in this thing called BPA, Business Professionals of America. It was a business-oriented competition in which you could pick different events and compete in them. There was things for accounting, medical terminology, and digital events. I focused primarily in the digital events. I made promotional videos for companies and gained a lot of really good world experience, and even got a national title. More importantly than anything, it helped me figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I knew in high school that I wanted to work with video production. So I wanted to give back and go to the high school and help out students there. So starting Friday, November 20th, I went in and met with about 7 or 8 kids and helped them with their projects. I listened as they presented their work to me, gave feedback, and talked about the event as a whole. I even got an opportunity to talk about the industry and what I was interested in, as some of those kids were interested in the same thing. I had a great time doing it, and the advisor invited me back. So even after this whole PDP thing is done, I'm going to go back every 2 weeks and check up on them, see the progress that they made with their projects, and also help them out more. The main purpose of the event was to be a mentor for someone in high school. Because when I was in high school, I had someone who looked at my work, someone who gave me feedback, and I wanted to be that resource for someone else. Overall, I ended up feeling way more confident talking about my interests, talking about video production, and I felt more confident in being able to teach other people. Either way, I'm excited to see what they produce in the future, and I'm excited to keep helping out at Mount Pleasant High School.
Number 9, Archie Bunker's Neighborhood.
So Archie Bunker was an event that happened Thursday, November 12th in Lars Lear Terrace.
Going to the event, I really didn't know what to expect, right? But hearing from a few people, they said it was really cool. So I was excited to check it out.
I had heard it dealt with racism a little bit, but outside of that, I had no idea who Archie Bunker was or what it had to do with. So I get down to Lars Lear Terrace and I see a bunch of different stations set up. One said bank, grocery, insurance, employment office, housing, and I had seen similar activities for this, where I knew we'd be going around and talking and trying to get something from each one. Then we all got a name tag that had different symbols on it. So we were told that I figured out that the symbols on the name tag correlated with race, gender, ethnicity, and whether you had any disabilities. Based on those things, the different stations would treat you differently. They would act upon stereotypes for each race or category that you were in. So someone who was a white male and Christian had a really easy time going through. Where someone who was Middle Eastern, who had an accent, who was older and had a big beard, had a harder time. I'm not saying any of those things are true, that's just the stereotypes that those people were acting upon. So I found out through the way that other people were treating me that I was a male who was physically disabled and mentally disabled. People talked extra slow to me and asked me how I get around and how I function by myself. So, to get through all this thing, I made up a story about how I got to where I was today. I had this great story about, getting injured in Vietnam and, getting crippled and also that affecting my mental status, but having this loving wife named Deborah, who despite my disabilities, loved me and stayed with me and helped me get around. Using that story, a lot of the stations gave me what I wanted. I was one of 3 people to finish, the other 2 being white male Christians. So I was the only disabled person who had anything wrong with them to finish. People in charge of stations were really racist and really mean based on the stereotypes to other people. And of course all the people involved apologized at the end, which is really eye-opening. And the sad thing is, these stereotypes exist in our world today. We were able to figure out what we were before they even told us based on those stereotypes, proving that those stereotypes exist. So it was a really cool event to kind of think and talk about what stereotypes we associate with each person and that we need to stop. And if we see people who are getting stereotyped or discriminated against, we need to stand up for them. Overall, I really enjoyed the event and thought it was a great time and really thought, this is what honors is all about. This is what the honors community stands for, eliminating things like this.
Number 10, HPPS Holiday Pajama Party.
For my final PDP, I participated in the HPPS Holiday Pajama Party. The event cost $10 but went towards buying pajamas for underprivileged families. The event itself was made up of holiday movies, having holiday snacks like hot cocoa and being able to frost your own cookies, and then also making ornaments and decorations out of different holiday objects for families who couldn't afford them. The idea was to not let money and finances be the reason that a family can't have a great Christmas together. So I got to make little reindeer ornaments out of candy canes, pipe cleaners, and little cotton ball noses. I got to string together popcorn, cranberries, and Cheerios to make little decorations. And I also got to participate in a lot of trivia. Also, Santa Fe was there. How hype is that? Turns out we raised enough money to get over 100 pairs of pajamas for individuals in our community, which I thought was incredible. I think it's so awesome that the honors community stands for things like that. coming together in the spirit of holidays to make a difference for people who don't have a lot. So those were my PDPs for this first semester, but I'd like to talk about one more thing before I go, and it's this thing called continuity. Now, continuity is defined as the unbroken and consistent existence or operation of something over a period of time. In film, this means that one action is continued on to the next clip because nothing has changed. Now, you may have noticed that my shirt, appearance, and even ethnicity changed over the course of this video. That was done on purpose. I'm sorry if it distracted you, by the way. But for me, that's what semester 1 in honors is supposed to do. There's not supposed to be continuity coming from high school. You're supposed to change over time. And I think that's what the PDPs did for me. Through all of my different PDPs, I felt like I grew a lot. I got to experience different people, got to experience more in the university, I got to explore the honors community, I got to grow personally, and I got to become an active citizen. Those are all things that changed in me throughout the semester. So this is my way of showing it. Whereas I switch shirts real quick, put on a hat or something, all of those things break continuity. And I wanted to visually show that there was some change. Because that to me is what honors is all about, and that's what PDP is designed to do. So thanks for watching, thank you for your time, and I'll see you guys next time.